Mr. Dennis Hurst, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me again. Thank you.
Dennis is the founder and president for Saltworks. You're also a salt miner. Now, I was very intrigued when I heard this. Explain that to me.
Yeah, so we found that we had a lot of customers that needed to take results from lots of different assessment tools that they were using and get a single view of their appsec program. So they wanted to understand everything that was going on, how often were assessments being done, were they compliant with policies. So we built a solution called SaltMiner that basically does that. It takes assessment results from lots and lots of different scanning tools and brings those into a central dashboard so that people can manage their appsec program.
Well, it's a great title, great name, and it evokes all kinds of things in my mind to say, this is an active thing to do. It's a verb, right? Now that's important. Very good. Now, our general topic today is appsec strategies that drive measurable returns. Now, I love this title because to me, a lot of apps are tactical, aren't they? Right? It's a response to something.
They are.
Or to prevent something.
Right.
And when you put the word strategy and apps together, you don't hear those combinations too often.
Yeah, and the way we're looking at it is that application security, the teams, the things that we ask developers to do, it's a part of building applications, and applications are built to drive business value. So it's critical to us that we integrate ourselves in ways that complement the business and not hurt it. So it very much is a strategy. If you go in there and you're not integrated well, you're doing things that are not in line with the way you develop software, you're going to hurt the business. So you're not being strategic. So we really feel like if you can have a good strategy and manage it well, that you can be complementary to the business, ensure that they're developing secure applications, but also developing them quickly and on time.
Let's get into some specific topics, okay? Our first is why appsec teams need to track application metrics. I think this is important. I would think in this day and age that people are tracking metrics, but not necessarily.
There's a number of different aspects to that. One is they need to be able to track just their vulnerabilities and in a common way. And that's where SaltMiner was sort of evolved, was you need to be able to communicate to the business, meaning the developers, the project managers, product owners, executives, what vulnerabilities exist, why they're bad or less, maybe less critical, what needs to be fixed, where investment should be placed first, so that you can have a balanced approach between business demands and security. Also, then you need to be able to meet audit requirements. Most companies are audited in some way around their data, even if it's just an insurance audit. They need to be able to report that data to whatever invested parties there are, so that there's a requirement to be able to have metrics around what vulnerabilities exist and what their mitigation strategies are. And then the one I think that most people forget is managing their service levels between their security teams and the development population they serve. So as an application security team, a lot of times we view ourselves like auditors, like we're overseeing it, but we're really not. We're a part of those development teams. We're giving a service to those development teams, and we need to be able to track the service levels that we give. So if a developer asks us a question, how long does it take us to respond? How many questions are we answering? And then that also helps us to then communicate to executives those kinds of metrics so that executives understand, what do we do all day long? What do we do day to day? If they're asking us to do more, how many people do we need for that? How do you budget for that? So metrics are something that we see people mess up a lot and not do well at, but it really does their teams a disservice because they can't communicate to management what they need and why in very practical dollars and cents ways. So, those vulnerabilities around, what are the vulnerabilities? What are the time trends? Are people assessing and fixing things appropriately? And then the last thing is those service levels back to executive management.
Dennis, tell me how appsec teams identify each vulnerability and how they determine those that are most urgent, and how do they track them appropriately? This is a big task.
It is, and there's really two big aspects of that. One of them is they need to have the appropriate testing approaches. I was going to say tools, but that's not the right word. They need to have the right testing approaches. Some of those will be tools. So, for example, they may have a static assessment tool in their development process, but they can also have penetration testing at appropriate times throughout. So it's having the right solutions in place to find vulnerabilities and really understanding what those solutions do and don't do. So no tool's perfect, no human's perfect, but understanding what each of the solutions you've got and what they do and don't cover gives you a good way to find the majority of application security vulnerabilities. And then the second part of that question is, what do you decide is most urgent? Really gets into understanding the context of an application. So what kind of data does it store? Where is it exposed, internally or externally? And that gets into other subjects, and we'll touch on later, around things like doing appropriate threat modeling, so you understand not only an application, but its context of what communicates with it and what does it communicate with, and the nature of the data it stores. Also things like data risk assessments, where we go really thoroughly through the applications and verify what kind of data we have. Those help us take not only the vulnerability by itself, but its context. So is it bad? And what's it protecting? What's the exploitability that exposes? And that can give us a good approach to understanding, finding the appropriate things, and also understanding what to fix.
So tell me why it's important for AppSec teams to have a fast and accurate response time. I think sometimes those two terms don't go together. You can be, if you're fast and not accurate, it's kind of useless.
Yeah. That is a challenge. It is a major challenge. So it's a process of we have to be fast because we have to meet business needs. So applications are going to be developed, they're going to be released. If they don't, it's going to hurt our business. So first off, we have to be fast. And then we also need to be accurate, because we're giving vulnerability information to developers who are very skilled at their tasks. They're good developers, but they may not understand what the vulnerability is or how to fix it appropriately. I remember we did some research years ago around cross-site scripting, and just went out to Google and typed cross-site scripting remediation. And well over half of the things we found were just wrong, absolutely wrong. So being fast is critical, being able to get feedback to developers, and then being accurate is also critical, because we're going to give information to people that aren't security experts, they're development experts. So, and that is a balanced approach. And sometimes it means releasing certain vulnerabilities that we have high confidence in to developers earlier, and then possibly doing more false positive reviews on things that are more abstract, or maybe just have a higher probability of being incorrect. So it is very much a strategy of what do you release to developers and when do you do that, and being very balanced based on the risk of the application.
Give me your final thoughts on tracking application metrics. Tell us why this is so important.
One is you have to be able to give your development teams a consolidated view of what vulnerabilities they need to fix. As a developer, you need to have a very specific list of things that need to be done for that application to be released. So as a development team, they can communicate to the business when that business application will be released and begin to deliver value. Also, as a security team, you need to be able to understand your risk holistically across the enterprise, to make sure you don't have any blind spots. So metrics are incredibly important. The ability to communicate clearly. What we're doing is complicated. It's applications and data and lots of things like that. It is inherently complex. So the more simplistically you can explain it and more clearly, the more likely you are going to be to remediate issues well and the appropriate things well. So metrics turn out to be critical to AppSec programs, just in your ability to communicate what you do and what needs to be fixed.
Words of wisdom from the founder. Tell us something we can really take away from this and make us understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think as application security experts and practitioners, we have to remember that we are part of a software development lifecycle for the businesses we serve. We're an integral part of something that creates business value, that can speed up our companies, can slow them down, that can reduce the risk or increase it. We need to act like it. So we need to be team members with our software development partners, the people that are building applications and companies, and really understand the business they're in, the timing they have, and be a part of it. Don't be separate from it. So being integrated is critical. And everybody talks about shift left, which I agree with, but it's really more than that. It's also understanding, really become part of those teams. Understand, why are these applications being built for the business, and how can we help? How can we make it better? How can we help them go faster? How can we help them be more secure? So I think with that mindset, sort of that mindset of being a servant or providing service to those developers, I think it just puts us in a great mindset to serve our businesses we work for.
Dennis Hurst, we're going to talk about AppSec strategies, my friends, that drive measurable returns. Thanks so much for coming on Security Guide TV, my friend, and I hope to see you in person next year.
Yep, you too. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll all be back in Vegas again next year for Black Hat.